You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. He is Derek Vandygriff, weekly contributor during baseball season as well. And you know what, Derek? We did this last week, and I said, okay, they predicted Ole Miss 15 out of 16 teams. Tell me why they're wrong. And you told me, and then Ole Miss went out to Arlington, and at least 2 out of the 3 games, they proved they were right.
Yeah. Look, we went down there, and it was a tough tournament, right? A bunch of top 25 teams out there, like we talked about last week. Really performed well, though, in at least 2 out of the 3. Even the Texas game, I know we got run ruled, but that was, one inning basically snowballing and getting away from us, and that's how that ended up getting the way that it did. But look, this is a team that bounced back, and Mike Bianco talked about this after Sunday's game, after we run ruled Clemson, that this team felt different because after they get run ruled by Texas, they go back, get cleaned up, come back to the ballpark next day and do the same thing to another very good team. You haven't seen that a lot the last couple of years. So I thought it was interesting, Mike pointing that out. And he's absolutely right. There's a lot of times where we get punched in the mouth and we never get back up off the mat during the weekend. These guys did, so a lot of credit to them for coming out on Sunday and hitting back a little bit.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting because the offense, for the most part, struggled with the exception of the Clemson game. The offense was pretty much non-existent. They beat Arizona 2-1. They were shut out against Texas, but they had an offensive explosion against Clemson. But even against Arkansas State, who's on as we're recording right now, Ole Miss has 1 run through 5 innings. The offense, the bats, they showed their potential in that Clemson game, but there's still some work to do.
Yeah, you're going to have to get going and look at some of this colder weather too, right? Getting out there and having to play in it. Not that was the case last weekend in Arlington, obviously in a domed field there, but certainly here at Swayze Field, it's a little chilly on this Tuesday as we're recording. Expecting some snow to start here a little after midnight tonight. So the cold weather is definitely here in North Mississippi right now. But yeah, you're going to have to find some consistency. I think you will too, right? Right. There's a lot of guys in and out of the lineup. Mike talked about this during his media day press conference just before the season started, is how he basically before the weekend starts, he writes down who he wants to get into games, who he wants to see, almost puts together a lineup, switches it up a little bit as far as the makeup of it and who plays where and who bats where. But they've got an idea of guys they want to get in games, they want to see play, and that kind of makes it a little hard to get into a rhythm offensively, right? And so you're going to see a little bit of that early in the year. You see it every year, and once they finally settle on certain guys, then you're going to see this offense, I think, take off because Utermark, he has a hit in every game, and that's the X factor for this team because of how talented he is. I mean, you saw the ball he hit Sunday. My goodness, I've watched a lot of college baseball, and I'm not sure I've ever seen one hit as far as Utermark hit on Sunday against Clemson. But then he had a double and a single over the weekend on top of that as well. So there's guys with potential here. Federico, another guy. I know he's not playing in this game on Tuesday that's currently going on, but I think you're going to see a lot of him, obviously, after his good debut. So we got a lot of pieces there. They just got to keep playing and kind of get into rhythm a little bit.
Yeah, and it was really nice to see Hunter Elliott come back. Now, granted, full disclosure to everybody, I wasn't going to spend like $30 or whatever it was for Flow Sports for a month. But I was able to catch a YouTube stream on Saturday and Sunday, but I was not able to see the Friday game. But Hunter Elliott, I think he had 5 innings of shutout ball. His velocity ticked up, just like you said, to 93, 94, and his changeup was really good. And it's just really nice that Ole Miss has an ace again.
Yeah, and full disclosure to you and all the listeners, Steven Willis, I did pay $30 to watch 3 games over the weekend. I'm sure that doesn't surprise anybody that knows me, but yeah, I gladly sent my $30 to Flow Sports, canceled it first thing Monday morning. But yeah, to your point, Hunter looked incredible. You never would have thought that it's been 2 years since he's taken the mound, right? The way he went up there and he attacked guys. 3 walks was a little concerning. You would like to see more strikeouts, but overall his stuff was really good, especially early on. Had the juices flowing a little bit. He was getting up to that 92, 93. I think he ended up touching 94, if I remember correctly. And then he settled back into his 89 to 92. And when the changeup is as good as it is and as good as it was on Friday night, and it's going to be that good every Friday night because it's been that good every single time he's taken the mound, that's plenty good enough. That thing's sitting, anywhere between 76, 77 miles an hour. And he does such a good job tunneling it. Nobody can pick it up. It looks just like a fastball coming out of his hands. And then all of a sudden it's 15, 16, 17 miles per hour slower, and they get out in front of it. So when you can change speeds and locate the way that he did, it looks like Ole Miss has a Friday night, a true Friday night ace for the first time in several years.
Yeah, that's good, because the reality of what the last 2 years have been like is Ole Miss and SEC play was kind of starting every series 0-1.
Yeah. I mean, we were basically like last year. Riley Maddox was really good for us, right? But he was more of a workhorse, go out there, give you 6, maybe even 7 innings, but he was going to give up a few runs along the way. You almost were never going to go win a game 3-2, 4-3, something like that on Friday. We have a lot of Saturday guys. That's what we had last year, right? With him, Mason Nichols comes in there on Sundays and really solidifies that role. Did a good job there as well. But that's kind of what we've had the last couple of years with Hunter Elliott being hurt. And you go back to the first year he got hurt, and you had Xavier Rivas slide in there, and Rivas again was a really good pitcher, not taking anything away from him, but he wasn't a Friday night ace, which is what we were going to be counting on him for. He was more of a Saturday guy. So, but getting Hunter back, getting an ace, a guy that's can go up there, grind out innings, and grind out a game when your offense isn't clicking, and give you the opportunity to win one of those low-scoring 2-1, 3-2, 4-3 games, and keep you in it every single Friday night. If you don't have that, you don't have a chance in the SEC. And for the first time in 3 years, Ole Miss has it.
All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. And when we come back, we'll talk to Derek Vandygriff about Luke Hill and the offensive explosion that was Sunday in Arlington. But first, I do want to let you know about TurboTax, our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes are dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms, and then wondering and waiting and worrying if you're going to get any money back. Now taxes are as easy as uploading your forms to a TurboTax expert who's been matched to your unique tax situation, an expert who is backed by the latest technology, which cross-checks millions of data points for accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back guaranteed, all while you go about your day. No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. And see guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. All right, so let's go back to Derek Vandygriff talking about the offensive explosion that Ole Miss had on Sunday. Because, Derek, I'm going to be honest. I think one of the most overused words in baseball is some combination of nuke or tank. Somebody just hits a home run and they call it a tank or a nuke. And it's like, no, that's just a home run. What Jud Utermark hit was a nuke.
Yeah. That was, like I said earlier in the show, one of the hardest hit, longest flying balls I've ever seen hit in college baseball. It rivals that one from Kemp Alderman back a few years ago where he hits it over the parking lot in left field there at Swayze Field. And it was hit so far that the cameraman couldn't even keep up with it, right? He knew he got all of it. He sat there, he admired it a little bit, which was very nice to see. I don't mind seeing our guys do it. I hate it when the other team does it, though. But when you're wearing an Ole Miss jersey, sit there and admire it all you want to. And obviously, Luke Hill being on base, too, he was real fired up for his good buddy there, Judd, to get a hold of one. And look, you kind of felt like this was coming. Judd, like I said, had hits in both of the previous two games. And, we only had 2 hits against Texas altogether anyway, and Judd had one of them. So it was nice to see him get a hold of one. Looks like he's swinging the bat fairly well. There's going to be swing and miss there. Don't get too frustrated with strikeouts. It's going to come. But what's also going to come is hits like this, and that's what this Rebel team needs.
Yeah, and Luke Hill on Tuesday, he kind of struggled. He kind of looked like a guy that maybe warms up with the weather, kind of.
Yeah. Well, look, you're not going to hear me blame anybody for that, because I'm the exact same way. Nobody hates cold weather more than me. So if you're not able to play in cold weather, I'm the last one that's going to criticize you. But look, he did a pretty good job inside that dome in Arlington, though. A really good weekend. I think he hit 550 something on the weekend. OPS over 2,000, and of course that big game Sunday with the 2 home runs, the triple, and it seemed like everything he hit was hard, right? And everything was to the opposite field. Me and Hitch talked about this on Ole Miss After Dark on Monday when we did our show. That's a sign of a guy that's really locked in, and to be that locked in this early in the year, to go the other way as much as he did and hit it as hard as he did the other way. His home run was to the opposite field. Well, both home runs were to the opposite field, actually. Triples to the opposite field, hit a double to the opposite field over the weekend as well. He's staying inside the baseball. He's getting the barrel to the ball. He's hitting it hard. He's putting a charge into it. And it's really just a continuation of what he did last year throughout SEC play. Struggled early in the year, non-conference. SEC play came around. He hit over 320, was really hitting the ball hard, and that's continued over into this year. And again, a guy we're really going to need, especially if he's going to solidify that number 2 hole in the lineup, where it looks like that's where Mike wants to play him. He's batted there every single game so far.
All right, let's talk about some of the newcomers that people don't know. Just giving everybody a rundown of the game and the newcomers, even either transfers or freshmen. I think Federico had himself a day on Sunday.
Yeah. Federico, true freshman out of Monroe, Louisiana, switch hitter. Heck of a way to start your college career, right? We're going to DH you and thrust you into the leadoff spot against a top 15 team, top 10 by some publications, and go out there and get them, kid. And boy, he did. Gets a line drive single there. His first at bat, has 2 more hits throughout the game. Looked really good, a really, really good looking swing. Got hits from the left and right side of the plate throughout the game. And Ryan Moerman's another guy, transferred from Illinois, is playing in right field for us right now. He's really had a good start to the year. I'm more impressed with him than I initially thought coming into the year. His swing looks a lot better and a lot more impactful than I thought. I know he hit 19 home runs last year, 12 the year before, but he gets the bat to the ball a lot quicker than I thought. I was expecting it to be a little slower, a little loopier with as much swing and miss as I read about him having, but was really impressed with him. He obviously hits that home run over the weekend and a double, and just made really good contact. Isaac Humphreys, another transfer from Louisville, the other outfielder, with the home run on Friday night. Kind of struggled a little bit the rest of the way, but had a couple more hits. Did fairly well. Mitch Stanford, again, transfer outfielder. That's the theme of this team. You got 3 transfer outfielders here or not from Mississippi. Stanford struggled with the bat, but look, he did a good job working counts. He had a couple walks over the weekend. Plays good defense. That's what we need out there. The bat's going to come around. He didn't hit 385 or whatever it was at New Orleans last year by accident. And a couple of the pitchers that I was really excited about that we saw for the first time. First of all, you get true freshman Walker Hooks out of Brandon, Mississippi. Came in that Texas game and really, really looked good. Retired all 8 batters that he faced, going 2 2/3 of an inning, 4 strikeouts, I think it was. No walks, no hits, just a perfect debut for Walker Hooks. Excited to see what role he ends up carving out in this pitching staff, because he's going to have one. I told Hitch yesterday on our show, it looked a lot like Hunter Elliott out there, a big framed lefty, true freshman, just coming out there and filling up the strike zone, right, and just daring a hitter to beat him, and they couldn't do it. So that was really good. And then, of course, the talk of the weekend from the pitching side, everybody wants to talk about Will McCausland, and rightfully so, transferred from St. Joe's. He came into that Sunday game, and it was in an interesting spot, too, because Clemson was trying everything they could do to climb back in that, chip away at it a little bit. I think they were within 5, 6 runs, something like that. If they end up getting a couple more runs in there, then that game would have gotten interesting, obviously. But McCausland comes in, 3 2/3, I think it was, 8 strikeouts, looked really, really good. And again, pounded the strike zone, fastball, fastball, fastball with that cutter, sinker. It's got a lot of movement on it, hard to pick up, not overpowering from a mile per hour standpoint, but really hard to catch up to because of how much late movement it has on it. So those were some of the newcomers that really caught my. Oh, and Luke Chang, by the way, the shortstop that played on Sunday. That's my guy right there. Officially did stamp of approval. Luke Chang's my guy. He went an entire game and did not record an official at bat and played the entire game. Sack, bunt, walk, hit by pitch, sacrifice fly, RBI, run, and played a really good shortstop too. That's a guy that you love to have on your bench. He's not going to take over Owen Pano for the starting shortstop or anything, but that's a guy that can play shortstop, play second base, and will obviously give you really quality at bats when he does get up there.
Yeah, and you can genuinely tell if a player has it when they get the Texas Leaguer accidental hits. I mean, like whenever you get up there and people smoke it, but Owen Pano had like just a random bloop single for his first hit against Arkansas State, but it just looked like not that he meant to do it, but that was just part of the process. So that was interesting to me to see. Now, it's really interesting that with Riley Maddox, with Hunter Elliott, and with Mason Nichols, Ole Miss appears to have a rotation. I really like the starting pitcher on the midweek. And with what he did, his fastball wasn't but 87 miles an hour. But one thing I'm noticing from Ole Miss pitchers, a lot of them are throwing cutters.
Yeah. That seemed to be the same thing I heard all throughout the offseason when I would talk to people about what Joel Mangram was doing with this pitching staff. It was velocity and cutters. Hudson Calhoun, when he came on our show, cutter was one thing that he talked an awful lot about that he started throwing over the summer, and that's when Joel wanted to get him back to Oxford, so we can start working with him on that too. It's another guy we haven't seen so far this year, but I'm really excited to see what he looks like here in his sophomore year. But yeah, there's a lot of fastballs, whether it be 2-seamers, 4-seamers, cutters, sinkers. He's basically just brought the Lance Lynn repertoire to back to Oxford, Mississippi. That's all Lance did. He threw like 4 or 5 fastballs. You were never getting a breaking ball out of him, but he was going to throw a fastball that moved differently every single time. And that seems to be what we're doing here this year. Me and Hitch talked about that. It seems like there is a philosophy change with those fastballs as well. Starting to see a lot more elevated fastballs than what I'm used to seeing out of these Ole Miss clubs. With obviously Mangram calling the pitches now. Whenever he needs to go with a put-out pitch, we're going to see a lot of elevated fastballs, whether that be cutters, 4-seamers. Thought he did a really good job calling the game with Riley Maddox, because Maddox had one of the nastiest 2-seamers I've seen in a long time. He was able to dot that sucker on the outside corner. You see him running into the hands a lot. You don't really expect it on the outside corner the way he was having Riley throw it there, and it really kept Texas off balance for those first 3 innings before things threw off. Yeah, to your point, I think that is a bit of a philosophy change of, we're always so slider heavy as a staff ever since Bianco got here. Now it's fastball, fastball, fastball. And then he'll work the sliders and the change ups and other off speed stuff, curveballs in after that. He will set everything up with the fastball. And if he can, he wants to get you out with that fastball too.
And also there's no more wasted 0-2 pitches, it looks like.
No. We're coming right at you now. We're not throwing one 3 feet off the plate and see if we can get you to chase. We may throw it 3, 4, 5 inches off the plate and see if we can get you to chase. But no, there's no more freebies going up there on 0-2 counts. We're coming right at you. And if you want to give us one on the close pitch, fine. But no, we're not throwing it way outside, way in, or in the dirt, anything like that anymore.
All right, whenever we come back, we'll turn our attention to the Eastern Kentucky Colonels, the baseball team coming into Oxford this weekend. We'll talk to you just a second. All right, we're back with Derek Vandygriff, and the news story this weekend is the Eastern Kentucky Colonels, and I need you Dids to tell me what to expect from the Eastern Kentucky Colonels.
Yeah, they're kind of the bottom half of of the ASUN League team right now. They're not expected to do a whole lot. It's definitely a team Ole Miss should handle. Weird things happen in baseball, though, folks. This is the first home weekend, so if we only end up taking 2 out of 3, well, that would be disappointing. It's going to be okay, but it is a team we should sweep. But one thing that caught my eye with them, they do have some arms. Reich Walton, he was up to 96 with his fastball back in the fall. And then Elijah Underhill, another starter, was up to 97. So they got 2 guys that can really run it up on you. So we're going to have to be geared up for some velo for at least the first couple of games of the weekend. And then Bradley Gagan, he's a Tennessee transfer that I think is going to end up rounding out their rotation. They ended up opening up with 4 games this weekend through 4 different starters. But those are the 3 that I would expect to see. Gagan's a left-hander. We had a lot of trouble with lefties over the weekend until we got to that Clemson game. So I think that's going to be a theme for teams coming up against Ole Miss, try to throw some left-handed pitching at us, see if we can do something different with our lineup. But those are 3 guys I expect to see for the Colonels on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They do have a good right fielder. He was a all-freshman ASUN player last year. His name's Tate Nunnally, hit 283, 11 home runs, 15 doubles, and 884 OPS. That's a pretty good ball player there, and one that's obviously you expect to get better as he gets older and gets a little bit more experience. So we'll see what the Rebels can do with him, but that would be the one hitter that I would circle to keep an eye on.
You expecting Hunter Elliott, Riley Maddox, and Mason Nichols again?
Same thing. Yeah. Same thing from the Rebels. I don't think you will see a rotation change until our hand is forced to make one. And right now, there's definitely no need to do that with those 3. Throw them out there. I think you're going to see a lot of different lineups again. What you see on Fridays, not what you're going to see on Sunday. It's not what you're going to see on Saturday or Sunday either. And same thing out of the bullpen. They're going to have guys that they want to get in games. I think Hooks has earned his trip back into the rotation from a bullpen standpoint. Braden Jones, didn't see him over the weekend. If he ends up not pitching here on Tuesday night as we're recording, then you'll probably see him. You got to get him some work. And then obviously McCausland, Calhoun. There's a lot of guys out there. J.P. Robertson's another transfer from a JUCO that I'd like to see as well. So a lot of arms we need to get in here.
Listen, the one thing that's interesting to me is if Ole Miss can find another solid Sunday starter, put Mason Nichols and McCausland as long relievers in the bullpen, you kind of have something staff-wise that Ole Miss can actually use as a weapon. Because so far this season, we talk about the Ole Miss offense. The Ole Miss pitching staff has been absolute nails other than one game.
Yeah, no, look, man, you're preaching to the choir here. I started tooting this horn back like 2 months ago about Ole Miss baseball. If we find somebody to lock down that Sunday roll, Ole Miss's ceiling is a lot higher with Mason Nichols in the bullpen, and just the high leverage role, whatever that is, doesn't have to be straight set up. If it's in the 5th inning and we're up 5-3 with the bases loaded and 1 out, bring in Mason Nichols right there. Whatever the biggest at bat of the game is, if you have the ability to bring in somebody like Mason Nichols out of the bullpen, that's where I think Ole Miss can possibly be at its best. But that would require somebody to take over that Sunday role, obviously. And look, I think they can, whether it be McCausland, Hudson Calhoun, I think is another candidate. Look, Walker Hooks keeps throwing the way he's throwing. He's another candidate. Townsend is another really talented freshman that we're supposed to see here on Tuesday against Arkansas State. I don't know if he's gotten into the game yet or not, but he's another really talented guy. So we have options if, just somebody can step up and take it, then we can move Mason back. I think that would be what's best for this baseball team this year.
All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you, Derek Vandygriff, joining us like he does every single week. Tell me what's going on Ole Miss After Dark, bud.
Yeah, so we just recorded a show on Monday. It's up now on the SEC After Dark YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that. And, we'll be back this weekend. if our schedules align, we'll probably get together and talk a little bit about Arkansas State and more of what to look for against Eastern Kentucky coming up. And but if not, then we'll just be back Sunday to talk about how the Rebels did over the weekend, both on the hardwood and on the diamond. It's kind of weird. We're excited about both sports right now. I can't tell you the last time that's happened to where I'm still following basketball as closely as I am this late into February, and now baseball season started too. So having to pull double duty, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, Derek, man. Thank you very much, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, buddy. Hi, Toddy.
Howdy, toddy.